right, greetings. It's John, Jacob, JJ.
Megan Elizabeth.
All right, and we're deep in flow. Megan Elizabeth, inform us about the vibes.
Vibes are immaculate. They are fun, they're loving, they're open, they're wealthy,
Yeah,
they're peaceful.
yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. It's definitely good vibes. Share with us a little bit about your experience today. I know this is a little unconventional in that we are doing this video at the sunset rather than sunrise. But let us know what today was like.
Today was really fun. We went over to our midwife's house and we were volunteers to help with her and a bunch of women.
Could I ask you a question before you go on? Could you explain what a midwife is?
A midwife is a woman that is present and assists with birthing. So she's traditionally in the United States right now, people will work with OBs or OBGYNs.
What does OB stand for?
Obstetricians and gynecologists,
Yep.
which are doctors. They have MDs.
Medical doctors, okay.
And she is a midwife, so she's a nurse midwife, and she is the person that we are seeing throughout this pregnancy to get our medical care, and then she'll also be there to assist with the birth because we are doing a home birth. And she invited us over to her house because her and some other women were taking a course on how to insert IVs, to learn how to some were learning for the first time and some were practicing to get recertified or to just keep up with their certification on how to insert an IV into the arm, into their hand. And so John, Jacob, and I were invited to be volunteers to receive IVs. And then we also received vitamin B12, either shots or intravenous, which is through an IV, but we both got the intramuscular.
Right. And B12 is a vitamin that in a lot of ways is supported to energy support. So a lot of people who might need B12, they might report kind of a general lack of energy. And B12 is actually associated in high quantities with actual animal products, like eating the flesh of cows, eating the flesh of chickens, eating the flesh of fish. And me and Megan, we've been on a plant-based, largely vegan diet for almost a year and a half now, and we've really loved it. We love it from really and mostly it's a little bit ethical, but mostly energetic. We just like the clean feeling of kind of not having to eat any other being's carcass to support our our livelihood. I think that Megan is such a good organizer, and we both really favor more minimalist approaches to design. That's to say, go with what's essential. And we just like, as far as even just being lighter on our bodies, having, a diet where we're eating mostly plants, vegetables, not really eating any processed things. Our friend Sebon, he would call it ital, which is kind of like a patois, way of saying natural. So, we like that kind of more natural, eat the sun sort of mentality rather than eat the carcass of a being who is eating the sun. But the thing is that, especially having a baby now, vegan diets are often associated with having a lack of B12. And for some people that's reported a lack of energy. For me, I've not noticed anything, and for Megan as well, although we got her lab reports back, and according to the lab's prescriptions, it communicated to us that it might be important for us to supplement B12, but we are so grateful to have a midwife who actually offered a different kind of option where we were able to get it, not just the IV, intravenous. How do you say IV? Intravenous? Intravenous. Not just the IV or intravenous form of B12, but also intramuscular, where you can get an injection of B12 right into your muscle, which actually lasts. It's like a long-lasting solution, and it actually lasts. It circulates in your body for like 30 days. So I'm really grateful. I never thought to get an intramuscular supplementation of B12, but I'm really grateful for this experience because it opens me up to a whole new way of kind of thinking about supplementation. I'm not really big on pills, but I also do want to, give my body the best environment, to support balance. And I'm definitely not opposed to, especially with all the technology we have, I'm definitely not opposed to supplementation. And if there's creative and, harmless ways of doing that, then I'm good. Like, I'd rather get an injection in my arm, or my buttocks, before I had to kill another being, in the name of B12, So it's something to reflect on, but I'm so grateful for our midwife for, offering that, as an option.
Yeah. And I also got, we both did IVs just so that they could practice.
Yeah, with the saline solution, just salt water.
Which is the level of salt that matches the body. So it's basically just for hydration and volume increase. Yeah. And my blood pressure is a little low.
Yeah, could I say, when you say the saline solution matches what's in the body, that's called isotopic. You have hypertonic, which means there's salt that's more salt than that is natural in the body. Then hypotonic, which would be less salt than is in the body naturally. But isotonic is that blend that is already there.
Yeah. Yeah, so thank you. So I got a little bit more of the IV, which is really helpful because it did raise my blood pressure. So extra hydration, yay! And yeah, we got to share meal together, got to share stories, got to learn from these women because they were all a little more experienced than us, at least in years of life. And so it was such a gift to be able to just ask questions, be present, listen to the conversation, and just really engage with that, which was really fun.
Yeah. And we all bring experience to the table, and I think that to the circle, and I think one of the experiences that one of the members of our circle and one of the ladies who were there, one experience that she brought that I thought was quite interesting was, she's into phlebotomy, which is the practice of working with blood and getting, doing injections and, getting blood samples and things of that sort. But one of the experiences, I gotta see the mirror. One of the things that I thought was quite interesting about her background was that she lives in a part of the United States called the Driftless region. It's the Driftless.
Yeah.
Yep, the Driftless region. And this is a part of the United States that me and Megan, if you talked to us a couple, like, maybe 16 months ago, we would have thought this was like the promised land of the United States. It is the part of the United States. It's located in 3 states: Minnesota, Wisconsin, and I believe a little bit of Indiana.
I think Illinois.
Illinois.
Yeah.
But it is a part where glaciers did not go. Yep, where glaciers did not go. And while there are plains all throughout, all surrounding this area is like fresh and ripe with beautiful rivers and mountains and beautiful fertile land. And whenever it's described to us, it always seems kind of like a promised land like area. I think if I remember correctly, she said, the lady who brought this experience to the circle, there are about almost like 9 people here today. She said it was about 200 miles by 80 miles. Okay. 200 miles by 80 miles, something to that effect. But it's quite a beautiful part of America, and I love hearing about the Driftless region and many other topographies, in the United States, because it really reminds us just how beautiful of a world we live in and how beautiful of a country the United States of America is.
Yeah. We still haven't got out there, but in due time.
Yeah.
Definitely a place.
Yeah, we were going to go out there in 2024.
Yes.
And the day before we went out there, we had a really cool opportunity come up in Minnesota. And we ended up just like staying in Twin Cities. But whenever we hear it, it's like, it sounds so close to the heart. And, perhaps there's some cool opportunities out there in the future.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
We may find our way there. Yeah, so that was our day. We also went to the farmer's market.
Yeah, we went up to Palm Beach. We went to Palm Beach
Gardens.
Palm Beach Gardens. The great farmer's market out there on Sunday mornings.
Mm-hmm.
Had a really good time.
Got some good olives.
Yes, we did. We still have them, huh?
Yeah, we do. I know. I kind of forgot about that until now.
Yeah, we were fed so well. One of the dishes we had our midwife prepared a beautiful Ethiopian dish, red lentils, and I believe she made this amazing soup that had fresh corn in there. You can tell everything was nice and organic. They had fresh blackberries that, whoever grew them, it must have been quite local.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were very fresh and just had much life in them. So we were treated so well. We were able to give, we were appreciated so well. People were so grateful that we were able to go and, work as volunteers, serve as volunteers, and just offer, a loving presence. And, one of the things that really grounded me as I was serving was I was just thinking, in this earthly body, I am, it is the case that, I do bleed, and it is the case that, we do go through cycles of this experience, and, some moments come and you might experience some waves of even pain at certain moments. But if you can kind of, if you remember what Viktor Frankl talks about in Man's Search for Meaning, he talks about the idea that if you can match pain with a greater sense of meaning, then suffering is relinquished. But suffering increases when you have pain with a lack of meaning. And, being role play partners for people who are, practicing phlebotomy, practicing doing these injections.
IVs.
these IVs, you know.
For the first time.
For the first time, you know, there were moments where, like, you know, what is the greater meaning of this? You know, and I just thought about all of the young people. These are all, you know, birth care workers. And I thought all of the young people who are going to benefit from our experience of being vessels of service, that we're equipping, you know, a generation of birth care practitioners, you know, that can be better at their service to, you know, a generation of clients, you know. And even if it's not just the children they work with, the moms, you know, the dads, you know, all of the people who are going to benefit from our service, you know, I just was really grounded in just the knowledge that, you know, as I leave out an open arm with open veins, you know, that so many other hearts in so many other bodies are going to be in a much healthier position because of our service. So I'm so grateful for this opportunity to serve today, and I definitely left our Midwives space with a smile on my face.
Oh yes, me too. It was so good bonding too.
Yeah.
To like, cause she's gonna be with us in such a big part of our life, and like such a important experience. So it was really cool to like get to know her and bond with her more, and just like be with her energetically, physically, like spiritually. It was just like, it was very nice.
Yeah.
I was very grateful.
One of the women who was there, who actually did my IV, I got 2 IVs, and the first woman who did it, she's a documentary filmmaker, as well as you know, a renowned doula, you know, giving birth to over 500 births, from what I understand. And she has a documentary called Squeezing Oranges, and it's about birth care practices, particularly cesarean sections or C-sections that occur in South Florida. So I had the opportunity to start watching the documentary a little bit while I was actually at the spot that we're leaving now, you know, our Midwives home. And I thought the documentary was just so well done, and it really brings attention to a situation that really deserves a lot of attention. You know, it's really talking about relationships, and it's talking about the ways that this fundamental relationship, childbirth, in a lot of ways, you know, literally coming to this world, is being misunderstood. And it's being misunderstood because people are taking it and treating it as a very transactional thing, where they're trying to fit in, you know, as many births as possible into a particular time window. And oftentimes, to get in this particular time window and to have this kind of uniformity, a lot of times they're doing a surgery whereby they're cutting the mother open, and they are going in and they are extracting the baby. And I only use the word extracting because obviously some people do this practice well, and I'm not, you know, discouraging anyone from, you know, working with, medical practitioners who you trust. But what I am saying is that oftentimes what this documentary explores is that oftentimes there are a lot of consequences to these C-sections that aren't necessarily considered or spoken about, you know, prior to the C-section happening. And one of the things that the documentary talked about was that oftentimes the residuals, the aftermath of these C-sections, it oftentimes leaves the mothers in conditions where they have to get like readjustments, and they have to internally repair from different things that might have happened as the baby was taken out of them. And I say this is about relationship because when the baby is taken out in an extractive way, and there are all these complications associated with the baby being taken out of the mother's womb, the necessary chemicals and the necessary relational dynamics between the mother and the child, the father and the child, it's not exactly cherished. And it's important to note this and to talk about this, because that is the fundamental entry for all beings into this planet. For human beings into this planet, it's this birthing process. And if we're treating that in a transactional, extractive way, that sets up, the context for relationality that is extractive and transactional, rather than a kind of relationship that honors the fundamental essence and presence of all beings. So, I was so grateful to spend time with our midwife today, and all the people in this circle of health. One of the things that I also learned, Megan, was about the golden hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that a lot of people associate the golden hour with the hour pretty much, right before sunset, where selfies look quite nice. And pictures, it's opportune for taking pictures because you have a nice angle of the sun, and it's not too intense, but it creates a nice radiance on the skin. But there's also another golden hour that, in some ways is even more fundamental, and that is the first hour. Okay. You want to go ahead? No, go ahead.
I guess it depends who you ask, because some say the first hour, then some say the first 2 hours.
Yeah. The first hour or two after the baby is born, that is an essential hour or two for the baby to bond with mother and father. And actually, in this first hour or two, the baby's gut microbiome, which the gut microbiome, what that is the bacteria that actually live in your gut. And these bacteria that live in your gut are actually very good for your health. For some, this set of, when people say think with your gut, this set of bacteria and this life that is happening at the gut level, what people call the microbiome, this is this is one of the most essential health systems in your body. So when you have a healthy gut microbiome, you're able to think with good intuition. You're able to reason in holistic ways. You're able to truly participate in the dynamism and the wholeness of life in the most optimal way possible. It's so essential, this gut microbiome. And actually, in that first hour or two that you're born, if you're able to spread, if you can hold your child in those first hour or two and really cherish that relationship, you get to pass on the essentials of your gut microbiome to your child, this from what I understand, in a very opportune way, and it must be done in those first 2 hours, and that sets up the stage for a healthy gut microbiome for the rest of their life. And what one of the woman who was there, one woman who was a doula, what she was sharing was that no one else touches the baby, just mom and dad, because you want the gut microbiome that is appropriate for the child to be provided for the child, which is mom and dad's gut microbiome. So that is just such an interesting approach to relationship, because if you're in a context where baby's passed off to do labs and measurements, and I'm not discouraging anyone from trusting research, medical professionals that they trust, but when you're talking about setting up a healthy relationship with your child, and your child to have a healthy relationship with the world, considering that golden hour and its relationship to microbiome is so important. And I'm so grateful to have learned about this golden hour with these trusted and holy women.
Yeah, amen to that.
Yeah.
Yep. And we had some beautiful sharing of how the father is so important for covering the baby and mother and family in prayer.
Yes.
And so it was I really loved learning that too.
Yes. What I heard with that was that, the father is there and literally, is able to cover the whole dynamic, in prayer. Because, one woman shared with us, great business owner down here in Southern Florida, she shared with us, she said, great business owner and community enthusiast, she shared with us, the angels are always there. And, it's father has to bring that consciousness of his relationship with the divine into the room, such that we're aware of the angels, and you know what I mean, that we're bringing consciousness of the angelic realm into the space. So I was so grateful for that. And I also learned a little bit about, in the case where maybe there's some women who they've already had C-sections and they want to do this thing, they want to do a procedure, they want to approach, their next pregnancy and their next childbirth, with, a more natural approach, non-surgery approach. And Megan, you informed me that this is called a VBAC.
Yeah. Vaginal birth after cesarean.
Vaginal birth after cesarean. What the doula encouraged us, what she informed us about was that these vaginal births after cesarean are actually, from her perspective, and she's a doula, so it makes sense that she'd have this perspective. But she said that from her perspective, it's difficult to do that in a hospital setting. And she would actually encourage, if you are going to try to do a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after C-section, that she would encourage to do it at home in a more holistic, natural approach where you have the comfort. One of the things that I was really amazed at today was, she was just saying that, this birthing process, she was saying 2 hours before and 2 hours after the birthing process, the mom actually, as a doula who we were talking to, the mom actually produces DMT chemicals in her brain, which actually, DMT for, that is a chemical that is related to, you know, what's called altered state of consciousness, where, you know, a higher realm, you know, elevated realm of experience is opened up to the mother, you know, to whereby she can see reality from a spiritually dynamic perspective. And what the doula encouraged me as a father, she said, don't go to mom and say, what, do you need water, do you need water, do you need water? She says, no, what, you know, you want to create a situation, you know, or you want to create a situation where you're just allowing the process to flow naturally. There's a natural dynamism to it, that, you know, your job is kind of just to, you know, be aware and observe the beauty of nature.
Yes, disturb the mother in that process as little as possible.
Yeah.
Because there is a natural process of your hormones, with oxytocin, with DMT, with everything that actually makes the birthing process less painful and more beautiful if it's undisturbed.
Yep.
And allowed and trusted.
Yep. Well, I'm so grateful. It was a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Midwives are awesome.
Yes.
And
same with doulas.
I love who I am.
Amen.